This video aims to introduce you to the use of singularity functions for finding the deflection of shafts. So if we have a shaft, which I'm drawing here, that is simply supported, left side is A, right side is B, I'm going to overlay a coordinate system onto this. I'm going to make this X, this Y, and then my Z axis will point out of the piece of paper. And I'm going to go ahead and apply a load on this shaft. Call that load F1, and it is going to be at a location X1 to the right of the end of the shaft. Now you know that there would be a reaction force RA and a reaction force RB on this shaft. If we were to take a section of that shaft, let's say right here, and we were to ask what is the moment at that section. So let's draw the shaft up to that point. You know that I have reaction RA here, that I'm going to require for equilibrium a force F acting downward that's equal to RA, and that I'm also going to need a moment in this direction to keep it in equilibrium. That moment would be equal to the reaction at A times the distance X to the right of the reaction force at A. Now we call this a positive moment simply because if you look at the coordinate system by the right-hand rule, the Z-axis is pointing out of the board, and that is the positive rotation direction for that moment. So that's how we come up with that notion of what is positive and what is negative here. Now, what we have to do is sort out how we can write this moment as a general function of X. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, this reaction force, as we move along the beam, in this direction, the reaction force generates a moment that's just equal to that reaction force times the distance we are along the beam. And once we pass this force F1, you know that we have to include the moment generated by that force F1, which would be negative. It's trying to rotate in a different direction. And now I'm going to use a notation called singularity function notation, where I'm going to take my X coordinate and I'm going to subtract from that the location of the force 1. And I'm going to raise that to the first power. You'll notice that this is a moment arm and this is a moment arm. The moment arm here, if you just extend this force down, you notice that this distance right here is X minus X1. Okay, so that's how we get that, all right? And now what we say is we can extend that to the end of the beam, no problem. So M of X is just equal to RA times X minus F1 times this bracketed quantity X minus X1. Now, what is X minus X1? X minus X1 to the first power is going to be equal to 0 if X is less than or equal to the location of the force X1. Otherwise, it's just going to be equal to X minus X1 to the first power for X greater than X1. All right? This is called a singularity function, and it's a very easy way for us to write a single moment equation that incorporates all the forces that could be acting on the beam. So let me show you this in a little bit more detail. Let's just imagine that we have a shaft now. So we have a shaft. The shaft is going to be of length capital L. I'm going to call the left side A, the right side B. Again, we're going to have a coordinate system where this is X, this is Y, and Z is pointing out of the board, or this is the positive direction for the moment using the right-hand rule. I am going to go ahead and locate forces F1 at a distance X1 to the right of the beam end, and I'm going to locate another force F2 at a distance X2 from the left side of the beam. So the moment as a function of X would be equal to, well, we got to add the reaction force here, RA. We got the reaction force here, RB. So the moment's going to be equal to RA times X minus F1 times X minus X1 to the first power minus F2 times X minus X2 to the first power. There we go. We wrote an equation for the moment as a function of X as we move across the beam. Okay, no big deal. Now, what if we add something else to this mix? So let's come back here, and I'm going to go ahead and erase this outer boundary on this, and I'm going to go ahead and add another loading element. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a distributed force with a load intensity Q, and that load intensity Q is in the units of force per unit length. So if I'm working in the metric system, the units of this loading intensity would be newtons per meter, for instance. If I was working in the English system, it would be pounds per inch, for instance. All right, so how do we modify this? Well, the first thing we need to know is where does that load start? Let's say it starts at X3, and where does it end? Let's have it end out here at X4. Okay, so now I gotta deal with that. So what I have to do is I know that once I move along the beam in this direction, as I pass pass through and try to record the moment as a function of x that's passing through that distributed load, I'm going to have a negative quantity, q. I got to multiply it by a distance. And the distance I'm going to multiply it by is x minus x3, because that's determining the length over which that is acting. That's to the first power. So this takes q, which is in force per unit length, and multiply it by length. That gives me a force. Now I got to multiply it by a moment arm. And so if I cut my beam right here, then I'm going to take this uniformly distributed load and imagine it acts at half the distance back over the span x minus x3. So I need to multiply this by x minus x3 to the first power divided by 2. Okay, so what does that do for me? Now if we go back and rewrite our moment equation, we find that our moment as a function of x is RA times x minus F1 x minus x1 to the first minus F2 x minus x2 to the first minus 1/2 q x minus x3 squared. Now we have an equation that represents just about everything, except the unfortunate thing is this term here will persist as x keeps moving along the beam. So what I have to do is I have to turn this off once I go beyond x4, which is the end of that distributed load. So I got to add to this 1/2 q x minus x4 squared, and now I have an equation that properly describes F1, a distributed load q that has a length of distribution x4 minus x3. Then I have a force F2 out there at position x2. I've now taken account of all of the forces, so I have a single equation that represents the moment as a function of x. Now remember, these angular brackets say that they are 0 unless my x value in this case is greater than x1, in this case greater than x2, and in this case greater than x3, and in this case greater than x4. So if I am to the left of all of these forces, the only term that acts is this first term, RAX. Once I get past x1, I have RAX and this force. Once I get past x2, I have this one. Well, if I get past x3, I got to include this one. And when I get past the end of the distributed load, I have to include this one. So that gives us a single way of writing the moment as a function of location along the beam. Okay, now that we have an equation to describe the moment, we can go ahead and think about this for a minute, because what we know is that at x equal to 0, the moment at x equal to 0 has got to be equal to 0. Well, if you look at this equation, you put x equal to 0 in, the first term disappears, this first term. Since 0 is to the left of x1, that term disappears. Since 0 is to the left of x2, the third term disappears. Since 0 is to the left of x3, the fourth term disappears. Likewise, the fifth term disappears, so that's great. Okay, big deal. All right. Now, what about at x equal to L? At x equal to L, we are at the other end of the beam, so the moment at x equal to L has got to be equal to 0. And that simply says that RA times L minus F1. Now remember, L is greater than x1, and so this just becomes L minus x1. The third term becomes F2 L minus x2. The fourth term becomes 1/2 Q L minus x3 squared plus 1/2 q L minus x4 squared. You might think that's no big deal, but it allows you to solve for the reaction R sub A. So R sub A is equal to F1 L minus x1 minus you got to change them to positive, plus F2 L minus x2 plus 1/2 q L minus x3, that quantity squared, minus 1/2 q L minus x4, that quantity squared. You divide all of that stuff by L, and that allows you to solve for the reaction at A. Okay, how do you get the reaction at B? Sum of the forces equals 0. So sum of the forces equal to 0 allows you to solve for RB. Okay, so it's a pretty straightforward way, and you can program this moment equation into a spreadsheet. So this moment equation that I've drawn up there can be programmed into a spreadsheet, and your life becomes very simple because you can then locate forces F1, F2, F3, as many forces as you want, at different locations along the shaft. You can locate distributed loads at different locations along the shaft. All you need to do is specify the magnitudes and the locations. For distributed loads, the intensity and the start and stop locations, and you can really easily write a single equation that you programmed into a spreadsheet, allows you to solve for RA and RB. And once you have RA and RB, your life becomes very simple again because you can now solve for deflection. How are we going to solve for deflection? Well, what we remember is the deflection equation says that d squared y dx squared, using the coordinates that I have, is equal to m of x over EI. All right? We have an expression for m of x. All right, so this becomes 1 over EI times the m of x, which we have written as a simple singularity function equation. So what is m of x? M of x is this RA times x minus f1 x minus x1 to the first power minus f2 x minus x2 to the first power. Oops, I made a mistake. I put the second instead of first power there. Sorry. Then we have minus 1/2 q x minus x3 to the second power plus 1/2 q x minus x4 to the second power. So life is simple. So let's take this EI term and just move it over to the other side of the equation so that we have EI d squared y dx squared being equal to m of x. And now let's go ahead and integrate this. All right, so EI dy dx, I'm just going to integrate that m of x term. I get 1/2 RA x squared minus 1/2 f1 x minus x1 squared minus 1/2 f2 x minus x2 squared minus 1/6 q x minus x3 cubed plus 1/6 q x minus x4 cubed plus an integration constant c1. Well, I don't know what to do with c1 right now because I don't know where the slope of the shaft would be equal to 0. If I knew dy dx was equal to 0 somewhere, I could get rid of c1 by plugging in that value of x. But I don't have that, so I'm going to integrate a second time. EIy is going to be 1/6 RA x cubed minus 1/6 f1 x minus x1 cubed minus 1/6 f2 x minus x2 cubed minus 1/24 q x minus x3 to the fourth. I got some more terms in here. Plus 1/24 q x minus x4 to the fourth plus c1x plus c2. Now we know something. We know that at the simple supports, we know that at x equals 0, the deflection has got to be equal to 0. So that implies that c2 is equal to 0. Now what we'd have to do is say at x equal to L, y has got to be equal to 0. And from that, we can solve for c1. All right, so carrying on with this, we can go ahead and continue to work on this and solve for c1. So since we know that at x equal to L, y is equal to 0, the left side of the equation becomes equal to 0, so that c1 times L is going to be equal to minus 1/6 RA, that's the reaction at A, L cubed, plus 1/6 F1 L minus X1 cubed, plus 1/6 F2 L minus X2 cubed, plus 1/24 Q L minus x3 to the fourth minus 1/24 q L minus x4 to the fourth. And we just divide by L. So if we divide by L, I can get rid of this term right here. And I just take all of this and divide it by L, and that gives me C1. Okay, so what good does this do us? Well, what it does for us is we now have an equation for the deflection where we know RA because we solved for that earlier. We know F1 because it's assigned to the problem. F2, the distributed load Q assigned to the problem. The length of the beam. Everything is looking pretty good here now. So that means we can go back to the equation for the deflection up here. We know that C2 was equal to 0, and so we can get rid of C2. Okay, so what this allows us to do is once we have solved for C1, we can very easily plug C1 into this deflection equation. And so long as the modulus or the moment of inertia don't vary as we move along the length of the beam, then everything is great. If I is also a function of x, then we have a more complicated problem. But this is a perfectly legitimate way for you to solve for several things. First, you know we have this really nice moment equation, which doesn't include material properties, E, which doesn't include cross-sectional geometry, I. It simply allows you to write a simple equation for the moment as a function of x for a loaded, simply supported beam. It doesn't even care about the cross-section, okay? It's just telling you what the moment would be. And from that moment, you could then calculate the bending stresses. So that's a nice thing to have. If you have constant modulus and constant cross-sectional area, then this equation here, once you have solved for C and solved for RA, allows you to calculate the deflection as a function of position. Okay? So all we have to do is figure out how we can write this moment equation and how we can incorporate this deflection equation into an Excel spreadsheet, which we would then be able to customize later on to account for changes in moment of inertia over here.